So I want to begin by asking you about this film, Shadow Dancer, and sort of your research into the IRA and that conflict, and how much did you know prior to making the film, and how much did you have to learn to play the role?
So as I was growing up, it was very much part of my consciousness because I'm British and because it was on the TV every day, but really I discovered the more that I looked into it, it was just the tip of an iceberg, and we'd been so deprived of the truth, really, from news sources that I still trust now. It was just a very small portion of what was happening, and it was very biased. Even though it was on the news every day and there was plenty of news time to be able to cover the whole thing, obviously it was a very tense political situation, and news services weren't allowed to report certain things, so it was very difficult for political correspondents really to uncover what they wanted to uncover, and only after the fact, somebody like Tom Bradby, who's a great political journalist, has been able to tell a story, in his case a fictional one, from a female perspective, which was very common, that allows you to step inside somebody's world inside of the conflict and not to see them at arm's length just as strange sort of terrorist activity, to understand a person having come from a place of 85% unemployment, having had their little brother shot in the head, not really having any future. So that was obviously the first thing that needed to happen. Was I needed to read up on certain things. But once I'd done that, past that point that you just have to go to Belfast, and just like with so many projects that are reflecting a time that has happened, it would be an injustice to the people who'd lived through it, politically, not to represent it in its most truthful light. We're only dealing with it, or I was, from one perspective. Clive Owen's character, Mac, has a different perspective. But the movie is really rooted from the perspective of a Republican family. And some people at Sundance asked why the movie wasn't about the other side. And the only answer to that really is because it's not. Right. And if we were to always have a half represent one thing and half represent another, and never truly get deeply inside of any one thing with any piece, I mean, firstly, we would be completely trapped artistically. But secondly, you don't really get that same depth of empathy or the opportunity to feel it if you try and deal with too many things at once. The other thing was that the point of making the movie, and if you speak to James, he would say this, was not to teach people in any way or not to right wrongs. It was to explore a time that happened and what that might be dramatically, emotionally, for somebody to go through that on a human level. Colette's a very interesting character because she is really fighting to define any sort of relationship with the child that she's given birth to. But she's had no opportunity to bring it up. She's had an opportunity, but her life has been, in a sort of strangely sacrificial way, completely devoted to this one cause that she firmly believes in throughout the film.
Well, tell me about working with James Marsh, and as a director, what kind of freedom do you have on the set? Is there a lot of rehearsals? Do you have a lot of takes, or is it sort of, just kind of a quick shoot, or what was sort of the process for you being on his set?
James is really kind and gentle, and he wants you to feel comfortable to get to a place where you can be just as free and raw and instinctive as possible. So it was a real collaboration in that way. I'd be so looking forward, even though the subject matter was so heavy, I'd be so excited to go to set every morning just to know that we were going to search for some kind of authenticity and to explore something in a really wild way, because James doesn't put constraints on you before he's seen what you might want to explore. So that's really interesting. I like working in lots of different ways. I actually also very much enjoy constraint in another way,
Right.
because it's great. It's great often to be led very specifically down a road. James is a very, very intelligent man, and he's a really empathic person. And there was very little rehearsal, really, because we didn't ask for it, because the actors had not asked for it. We had times, certainly, where we worked and talked about things, and we prepared and sort of came together as a family unit, because in the film, the centre of the film is the family, and that was really useful. And apart from that, there was room to play.
Clive, a great partner.
It was so great when Clive came to set, because we'd established this world of the McVeigh family for months and months, and then the last 3 weeks of shooting is when Clive came in to film his section. So he stepped this alien presence into this alien world, and it was really tense and wonderful. Clive and I had spent time together. Clive, James and I had spent time together before we started shooting. You know, we'd all become friends and talked a lot about the film. And then we went our separate ways, Clive and I, in the sense that, we filmed the main body of the film, and then at the end, Clive's character really steps in and just shakes up everything that Colette's known. And it was so wonderful to have a comrade as well, to, in between those really heavy scenes, to just have this wonderful lightness where we could giggle and laugh. And we went to the same drama school, and we have lots of, we went at different times, but we have, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's a great movie, great performance. So thank you so much for
Thank
talking to me.
you.